control over your health care to the government and cronies like
You're handing
Hunter
over
Biden.
ideas about health care to a woman who ran on this from the beginning and still can't tell you how she's going to pay for it.
And so that gets to the big point, which is honesty. How long is she going to continue to stick with the dodging line that it's not about the cost? But not when we get numbers like this, and the more she does this, the more people say, wait a second, you are just totally lying to me about this. So how am I supposed to believe that we're going to get cost savings when you can't even tell me the truth about how much it's going to cost in the first place?
Senator Kamala Harris at the last town hall, at the last debate.
And that's what's interesting.
Right, Jessica?
People should be able to pile in on that.
Jess? You also sound like Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Andrew Yang, Beto O'Rourke. Welcome to the left, the moderate left.
If the left is paying attention to cost, then I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Listen, this has been a sticking point for her since the moment that she wouldn't differentiate from Bernie, that she refused to say what Bernie Sanders was saying, which was being honest about the hike in middle-class tax cuts.
Yeah, he told her on it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it will be difficult for her. I don't think this is a death knell for her campaign.
I do. I think this is really going to hurt her.
Hurting and being a death knell is different.
Such a basic concept, and we were almost in November where everybody is, what are they thinking about? New enrollment period for healthcare.
Right.
She could have sold it, but right now she's playing catch up. I thought she was going to release the details last week. Did I miss an email? I mean, we're still waiting for something that is still so basic. She hasn't fixed it since the last Democratic debate. Yeah. I don't agree with you, Jessica. I think this really hurts her.
I think it hurts her. I'm just saying not a death knell. I mean, she is so popular right now. She does have a core base of supporters. But something that we're not talking about that is important here and different than Bernie Sanders, she's abolishing private health insurance. Bernie Sanders has this carve out for union workers who came to him and said, we are not getting rid of our private insurance. When you look at the polling on this, much to your chagrin.
Right.
Well,
or as Kamala Harris thought, they thought they were talking about her personal insurance. She didn't realize for everybody.
Joe Biden is being buoyed in the polls right now from support from moderate Democrats who do not want to give up their health care. They want a public option and to improve Obamacare, and that is the gold standard Democratic plan.
More government control over your health. We've been there. It's called the eugenics movement, where there was the forced sterilization of the mentally disabled up until 1979. Think about the power that you're handing to the federal government.
All right, on that terrifying note, a veteran of Bill Clinton's impeachment with a warning for President Trump, why James Carville says trouble is coming and why he thinks the Trump administration is totally unprepared for it.
What's going to happen is they're going to impeach him. That's just going to happen. And there's no, that train has just totally left the station. But I'm just saying, as somebody who's seen this before, let me tell you, trouble is coming.
That is, if you couldn't recognize him, former Bill Clinton campaign manager James Carville, with a warning to President Trump as the House gears up to vote on a resolution formalizing the impeachment inquiry. Carville, recalling President Clinton's 1998 impeachment, says he thinks the Trump administration is not prepared for what lies ahead. He says Clinton began his impeachment ordeal with a 71% approval rating. Trump is at 41%, and that the White House appears to be relying on keeping Trump's base intact, which Carville says won't be enough. But, Melissa, the economy is good, and it harkens back to 98, which it wasn't actually. It was the Russian debt crisis was that year.
Yeah.
But, again...
Right, which to me, so everything you just said up there, that's why Nancy Pelosi won't cooperate on the USMCA. You said the economy is good, and that's his saving grace. And what could undermine the whole economy? Not getting that trade deal done that's sitting there and set up to be signed. And I think that's exactly what's going on with that trade deal. As long as the economy's there, it buoys him. And not doing the USMCA is definitely threatening that. I think that's my conspiracy theory.
Carville's statements here is interesting because he's saying the president isn't ready for this. And then he lays out, here's the three things that we did to fight impeachment. It was paint the process as partisan, question the issue at hand, and rally the base. Well, what in the world has been happening for a month? That's exactly what the Trump White House is doing. So, I mean, to Carville's point, I think the president is approaching this just the way he ought to. Yeah, his approval rating is lower, if you want to trust that poll, but I don't know what Carville's critique actually is here.
It's every poll that has his approval rating there, so you can pick any of them. But it's a little bit different, and Lindsey Graham has even criticized the president for this. He doesn't have a war room for this. I mean, President Clinton was set up to be president and to go to battle on impeachment, and it was like the West Wing was bifurcated, right? Like, these are the impeachment people, and these are the governing people.
You see the thought bubble above my head.
I'm looking, I'm reading your thought bubble.
You've got to wait until the process actually gives you something to fight specifically. So as soon as they hold this, and this is why I asked you earlier, does this impeachment inquiry vote help the president? As soon as we know TikTok, everything that's coming, then Republicans and the White House attorney, everybody can kind of team up. I think that what you're saying is they didn't hashtag war room, but it doesn't mean they don't have a strategy.
Well, if you look at what Mick Mulvaney did, for instance, chief of staff going out there and admitting on live television that there was a quid pro quo.
That wasn't part of a strategy.
Well, it wasn't, but that wouldn't have happened if there had even been a formalized thing with 3 or 4 people even on top of this, and they're going to be the spokespeople.
You don't know what that man would have said or wouldn't have said.
Mick Mulvaney? I mean...
You don't know. But going forward, when the process at least gets to be more fair, Dagan.
Right. Again, he's going back to 1998, right? Today is a different day. We have social media. You don't know the impact on the voter of this process until people actually go to the polls, actually the real polls, vote for the president. I don't think that you can get your head around as folksy as you want to be, and you can talk just like this, that, you know, we went after Ken Starr.
Does anyone think that this is going well for the president, though? That he's handling this well?
Judging from that applause line yesterday, though, I mean, that's what I kind of
keep... To a room of police chiefs? Okay, but what about the country? We're all his constituents.
It's a room of police chiefs. It's not a rally.
And by
I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Would Carville say they went after Ken Starr and framed him in a way? Well, what is President Trump doing with Schiff?
I just don't think that we know exactly what their plan is going to be yet. We got to watch.
Okay.
Thought bubble. Hundreds of Facebook employees sending an angry letter to CEO Mark Zuckerberg about the way that the social media giant is handling political ads. What they're demanding. Next.
New troubles for Facebook ahead of the 2020 election. Hundreds of employees at the social media giant sending a letter to CEO Mark Zuckerberg, blasting his position that the company should not police the accuracy of political ads. The letter reads in part, quote, "We strongly object to this policy as it stands. It doesn't protect voices, but instead allows politicians to weaponize our platform by targeting people who believe that content posted by political figures is trustworthy." So, Melissa, this really goes to the heart of everything we talk about, which is that politicians aren't trustworthy, right?
No, it is true. And, you know, I have said to my kids from day one, because they'll be riding in the car and you hear a political ad, and I'm like, don't even listen. Like, you cannot trust a political ad. Don't even listen. And I wonder if one of the solutions, we were talking about this in the break, is slap a label across the middle of it. This is a political ad, because on one hand, I can see, you know, you shouldn't be able to have an ad that's blatantly false. On the other hand, who decides where that line is? Go ahead, Brian.
It's the middle ground that matters so much. We can all agree on these extreme cases, but you get to that middle ground really quickly when you talk about something like Medicare for all, and what is the cost of this thing, and will it bring down costs? And is that a lie? Is that a mistruth? Are we going to label that? Are we not going to allow Elizabeth Warren to say that? Are we not going to allow President Trump to make a claim about tax cuts? Right. Those are real issues. And do you want Mark Zuckerberg, or do you want employees at Facebook making a determination about which of those counts as a lie or a truth?
Dagan, you were just talking about a few studies that you've seen about how good the public is actually at telling what is truthful and what isn't.
Yeah, there have been studies done about people's ability to ascertain on social media, oh, that's accurate and that's not accurate, and people to, again, sniff out a liar. And that's essentially what Mark Zuckerberg was trying to say. And I would argue that these technology companies, they are very left-leaning, they are very liberal. And if these employees were worried about, it depends on whose lies they're worried about. Again, were they up in arms when President Obama's campaign in 2012 was using the social graph